Peace and Black Power family. Welcome to another episode of Do Knowledge Radio, place where knowledge is born. This is your host, Knowledge Born a Lot, and we are here to welcome back to the platform a prolific writer, one who is very, very, very open with the world, even though she claims to be an introvert. Okay, she's like extrovertedly introverted. An amazing talent with a courageous mind, uh, a warm heart, and a brilliant spirit. So let's welcome back poetress Alyssa Michelle. Welcome back, welcome back, welcome back. How you
Hey,
feeling? How you feeling? How you
good.
feeling?
I'm feeling great today. Got a lot of energy.
Mm, okay, okay. Yeah, I see you glowing over there, shining, ascending.
Yeah, every day.
That's what's up. So how have you been since the last time I talked to you in general, and then in specific, since the Earth is going through her ascension. How you been?
So I'm going to be completely honest. I have been going through a lot of personal changes with my growth. And they're all positive changes. I've been doing well, but sometimes I have good days. Sometimes I have bad days. So it's not like a straight, oh yeah, I'm doing well. Everything is so great. Growth at times is very uncomfortable and unpleasant. So sometimes when you get through that little bump in the road and you think you're over that little phase, another phase is coming. So you have to get your energy up for the next phase that you have to go through.
Okay. So, how have you changed in regards to you seeing your work? Let's deal with your work and these growing pains that you've been going through during your ascension. How do you look at your work now? That you produce. What does it feel like to you? Does it feel the same? Or let's talk about that.
Okay. My work as in like my poetry and my writing or like my personal growth.
Well, your book. You know, show the family the book because I ain't got mine. Show them the
So here's the book, Growing Pains.
bam.
So in regards to my work, that was the first phase of me acknowledging that and this is pretty deep because the title of my book that I wrote almost a year ago is the phase that I'm currently going through right now in my life. Um, it was like a foreshadowing of what was to come. Basically, the book was explaining certain phases that I have remembered in my life, which is a part of growing. Sometimes when you realize and you become more conscious and aware of yourself, of who you are, of your decisions, you remember certain things that happened, certain people you used to be around, certain things that you used to tolerate. And I use that as an opportunity to write about it. Now, right now, I realized that was just the first step in going through this little journey of mine right now. Right now, I'm actually in it. So it's going to be more of a conscious honest moment with myself, acknowledging, you know, why I allow certain things to happen, who I am, the root of why things did happen. Sometimes you don't have an answer. Um, and then the growing pains part of it is learning how to let go of a lot of things, a lot of habits, a lot of toxic habits maybe that you've inherited from the people who've raised you, from whoever you were hanging around. That's the painful part, because sometimes toxicity becomes a part of you, or you think it is. So you have to become aware of it. And sometimes it hurts because you're like, wow, I don't like that about myself. Or I don't like how I allowed this to happen. And you can't dwell on it, because if you dwell on it, you will not move to the next level. You won't grow. So that's the growing pains part of it.
The growing pains of the growing pains. So what about
Yeah.
the ascension aspect? Because with growing pains or growth, there's ascension and there's also change. So it's like three layers and aspects of that. So, and I put growth in the middle. Ascension. It happens on a multitude of levels and in a myriad of ways. So you're looking at in totality, how have you ascended? What does that ascension look like? Since you had made that conscious decision to say, okay, I'm done with that right there. You understand what I'm saying? No more. I'm moving on. That decision to move, that essentially to go through that process. You know, because change looks like the equal sign. But the path is growth there. Like the willingness to ascend is the beginning part, and then you go through the growing pains. And then on the other side is change. So this ascension, can we talk about this ascension journey thus far for you?
Absolutely. So the ascension part is when you're actually aware of, certain things that you played a part in as well. So you can't always blame everyone else, even though a lot of things have happened or can happen to where you are not the person that was in control of the situation. Other things that you have to take some accountability for. I believe that it's a part. It's necessary to know yourself so well that you acknowledge your own areas that you need to work on. So that's a part of ascending, because you can't be conscious and be unclear as to the big picture. You have to see things for what it is. And a lot of the time, you have to take your emotion out of it. You have to deal with your emotion. You have to clear that emotion. And then you have to actually sit with what the truth is, the lesson is. And once you actually sit with it, once you actually learn the lesson, and you use that knowledge that you just was like, ding, okay, I got an enlightening moment. Sometimes we call it like a spiritual awakening. um that's when you ascend. That's when you're like become a little bit higher than you were before. Your frequency goes up a little bit, because now you're like, okay, I see what it is for what it is. I'm not trying to lie to myself anymore. I'm taking accountability for what I've done in a situation. And I'm learning how to move on past this. I use that knowledge and I take it and I use it. I transmute that. So instead of keeping yourself in a negative frequency, which can happen often while you're growing, you use that and you say, this is what I'm going to turn it into. I'm going to grow so that I can be the best person that I know I could be. I can be the divine being that I was created to be. So that's the ascension part. And there's stages to it.
Now, how do you deal with overcoming connections to the state in which you existed in, like trauma bonding with those experiences and being afraid to let those burdens kind of go, you know? Um, in those cases, I guess I'll just leave it right there and then come up what's next.
Absolutely. So I did realize that I had made so many connections with people based off of how how I viewed myself, which is like the trauma bonding, as you mentioned, because you're programmed to think and act a certain way when you're not conscious. So when you become conscious, when you are ascending, you have to make the decision to let these energies, let these people, let these things go. And it's up to you to let them go or not. If you keep them around, you're not gonna move on. They're gonna be dragging you down. Sometimes it could not even be the person saying anything to you. It could be just their energy. It could just be a memory. It could be something they did that you're holding on to. And the letting go part is hard because you think that you are entitled to keep this relationship around because you spent so much time building it. And you were completely unaware that the whole time that it was unhealthy. It doesn't always have to be toxic. It can be unhealthy to the point where you're just sharing your trauma, and then you make this like very similar decisions based off of the trauma that you've been through. So if this other person or these people don't push you higher or to be your higher self, then there is no need to be around them. And it's hard because it could be family members, it could be a best friend, it could be someone that you just have confided in, who has known your secrets. And it does hurt in an aspect because it's like to us, it's like we're losing something to us. But spiritually, you're not losing nothing. You're taking the lesson that you got from what it taught you, and then you're moving on. People are not always supposed to stay in your life forever. Sometimes they come in your life to teach you something. You take their lesson and you move on. It's like we get too caught up in attaching ourselves to people and to things that it makes us stagnant in our journey, in which I am learning right now. And it's hard. You don't, and it doesn't happen automatically. Sometimes you fight with yourself. You fight with your ancestors sometimes in your mind, like, oh my gosh, really? Like, you want me to do this? And they're like, yes, if you want to grow, what do you think you got to do? If they're not pushing you to be greater, if they are tempting you to do what you used to do, if they are belittling you, if they are jealous of you, you got to let them go because it's not going to benefit you at all spiritually.
Yeah, you just described an addiction cycle and an abuse cycle.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and we don't know that we can be abusive to ourselves
Absolutely.
and addicted to our vices. So the moment we want to say that we're not dealing with this anymore, or that, or blah blah blah, herein comes the test. You know, herein comes a blessing that we perceive as a test or as an obstacle. You know, you say, "Hey, I'm gonna stop smoking cigarettes." Instead of saying, "I was smoking cigarettes because of this or this or this or this," you just associated the bad habit and not what was habit forming in the process. You know, what was the connection? It may not have been something bad. It could have been just I was around my friends and they smoked. They all smoked, and I started smoking with them. You know what I mean? Like other cases, it might be a little more severe. You know, it's a stress reliever. So when you assign names to things, this is a coping mechanism to help me deal with stress. The moment you say, I'm not going to smoke cigarettes anymore, all of your stressors become amplified. Nothing changes, right? Nothing changes, but these stressors become amplified. You find that these
Mm-hmm.
things are setting you off, and you know, in that, it's a path towards your ascension. So, if you want to stop smoking cigarettes, this is how you're going to have to do it head on. You're going to be confronted with those situations now more to show you that you can overcome them without having to use this coping mechanism. You'll find something else. You know, it'll be exercise, it'll be whatever the case may be. You see what I'm saying? And a lot of people find their gifts along that way. You know, when confronting those issues or are being confronted with those issues, confronting them head on, you find these other ways, these other aspects of yourself you didn't even know.
Absolutely.
Look at this pandemic situation. Look how creative people have become. Look at our people. Look how creative they have become. So adversity is adverse to you for as long as you find yourself in that position to where it's adverse. So when you traverse that energy and, like you said, transmute it into something else, it becomes a blessing. It was a blessing the whole time, but you had to come to the realization that it was a blessing and not a curse. You know, so
Exactly.
and you might relapse.
Yeah, it happens. It happens. Those things are presented to you to see if you've
Right,
actually grown.
right, and you could be doing
Hmm.
good. You know what I mean? You talk to people and be like, I was doing so good and blah 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 and whatever, and then this happened and then boom, and that's
Yeah.
and that's okay because in that process you can help somebody else. In that process, you can help somebody else. This is why they have Narcotics Anonymous, Alcohol Anonymous, and all of those places that are there because you can go there and you're in a room full of people who have been through what you've been through. You know what I mean?
Right.
So that's like the peer to peer counseling kind of aspect, and we don't have that because we hang out with people that we're closely associated with it. So if we got problems, we all got the same kind of problems. So that's our bond and connection. It might be
Right.
it for in our disdain for somebody else. You see what I'm saying? One of the sisters, she was talking about it, and she's new on YouTube. She's like, you be with this girl, and she said, "Oh, I don't like this other girl," and she said, "Why?" She said, "I don't even know something about her." So you automatically associate that with what you need. You see what I'm saying? And that's
Hmm.
the foundational point of your relationship. So when you are confronted with yourself on the path to becoming self, not the yourself, the self that you have grown accustomed to seeing that is flawless, the that one that you are accountable to self is looking at yourself, and this is where you want to close the gap in the space to. So you have some internal work to do, you know, solely, and then you get ancestral assistance. You see what I'm saying? And that sounds like love, right? But
Yes, it is.
this is real love. Yeah, this is real love. It don't feel like the dainty love that we've grown accustomed to. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
So it's all together in regards to ascension, growth, and change. And evidence of change is that you tried to change before and it did not work. This
Hmm.
time, when you apply these things along this ascension path and in the growth process, you don't return to these things again. It doesn't mean that you didn't relapse. It didn't mean that you don't regress. Along the way, the evidence of it is that you are so uh, disciplined in it that these things no longer occupy the space in the severity in which it used to. So that's what change
Exactly.
looks like on that other side. You know that you're not affected as much. You're not bothered as much as it would have been before because these is where the other habit forming kinds of things come from, based off you trying to mask those things or cope with them in your own fashion. And there could be some very destructive behaviors versus constructive behaviors that's associated with those things,
Yep.
and how we see them are very important.
Absolutely.
So have you took a moment and looked at your writing versus how you're writing now? Like, have you gone back and looked at in your journal that you shared with the world and was like, oh shit.
Yes, I
This
have.
came out of me, and what was that meeting like for you?
Um, so I think it's necessary when, especially when you're a writer, to look back at, your progress and how far you've made it. Because at times when you're going through a rough spot or a bump in the road or growing pains, sometimes you might be a little hard on yourself. You might say, well, my gosh, like what is going on with me right now? But then you need those moments of reflection. Say, as a writer, I look at my book, I pull it out, I'm like, whoo, girl, you wrote that. And that encourages me because I am great, I am worthy, I am talented, I'm blessed. My ancestors have been guiding me the whole time. And at sometimes I'm not very thankful for certain lessons or certain phases because I don't like them. But then I'm like, well, I needed this because if I could do this and I'm here right now, then like I'm on my way to where I'm supposed to be. Even though I'm not where I want to be right now, I've come pretty far. And you see, well, I see how effortless and like my flow just came. Like the way I wrote was just so natural, and I was honest with myself, and that was the first step, being conscious and aware of you. um so I needed it because it encourages me to keep writing, because if I stop, then I'll stop my healing, I'll stop my growth, or at least it'll become stagnant. And I do look at my work right now, like I'll leave it alone for maybe a week or two, sometimes a month. I'll come back to it and I'll read it. And I'm like, ooh, you must have been sending, you must have been getting some messages because you were speaking some honest knowledge. And it's raw. Right now, I'm going through a phase where I'm being honest. And it's sometimes it's hard to be honest because it's uncomfortable. You tend to dig up certain things that you have swept under the rug for so long. And because you began to act as if that was normal, now it's very different, it's uncomfortable. It's something that you're not used to because it's new, it's different, and you're growing. So it's needed. It's needed.
Okay, so where are you in your writing journey at this current moment? What does it feel like to you now?
Oh, you cut off a little bit in the middle.
I said, where are you in your writing journey right now, currently? I know you're working on some things that you might want to share with us, or you might not. But where are you in your writing journey? What does your writing feel like to you at the current moment?
Currently, my writing feels like I'm sitting down with a therapist and I'm talking to the therapist. It also feels like I'm sitting down with me. It's like me against myself. It's like I'm sitting here. This is like my physical self, my human self. And then the person sitting across from me is like my higher self. And sometimes we switch. Sometimes it's my higher self speaking to me. Sometimes it's me speaking to my higher self. And sometimes it's just me talking to me. The person who I want to be in the future is like my higher self. The person who I know I can be is my higher self. It's like we're alternating, and I'm getting all these emotions out. I'm getting all these thoughts that I've kept in, and it's not always positive. Writing is not always flowers and candy and love and happiness. Sometimes writing is a way to face your demons that you have been running from your entire life. And people don't like that. But if you want to grow, guess what? You have to face those unpleasant truths and those demons, because how in the world can you make it to the next level if you don't overcome these obstacles? If you don't overcome these fears, you have to. So Also, it's me speaking to other people like me. That's another way of me writing. It's like I switch perspectives, and I think it's pretty amazing how I can change the first, the second person, the third person, and just write. It's like when I write, I can be myself without any limitations. I don't I don't have to worry about who likes what I write, who doesn't like what I write, because it's my truth. So as long as I'm aligned with my truth, then it makes me feel extremely free, knowing that I'm not bound by my own fears, that I'm not bound by the expectations of people around me, family, friends, coworkers. It feels extremely freeing knowing that I can use my writing as a safe haven, especially during these times right now where you can't really do much. This is my escape.
All right, so I want to talk about this other phase of ascension that I've witnessed vicariously, and I'm so damn proud of. Performance. Hello? Like performance. You performing and, you know, coming out of that titanium introverted shell, into this titanium goddess ascension performance. What's up with that? Tell me some stuff.
Yes.
I need to know some details. Okay.
So so there comes a point where I've seen that I can't I can't just make it about one specific thing about, yeah, I wrote a book, it was great, and that's it. I believe that, especially if I'm a poet, that I need to voice what my work. I need to make it known, not just for me to be known as a writer, because I'm not just going to be a writer. I'm not just going to be a poet. I have so many great things that are inside of me that need to be shared with the world, because some people need those messages and some people don't read books. Some people don't go on Amazon to shop for books. They don't, sometimes people don't even read like ebooks. So some people more visual. So when I do my spoken word, which I know I have to do a little bit more of, and I'm going to go ahead and do that, it hits, because when you read, you just read. It's like sometimes you might be reading it like in your own tone, but when you see somebody else, especially if they're the writer and they're saying it with this power that hits, it's different. The delivery is completely different, because you're getting the delivery like straight on from who wrote it. And it's like, wow, like I have to, as a an artist, I have to share that creativity in video form, because it gives you a clearer understanding of the feelings I was going through when I wrote it, what I remembered when I wrote it, maybe even me putting somebody else in the story when I wrote it. And you'd be amazed as to how many people are secretly going through the same things, and they just don't know how to talk about it. Just like I didn't know how to talk about it, because sometimes you're ashamed of it. Maybe you feel guilty, or maybe you're just angry about what somebody did, so you hold it inside. So when you shed light on these issues, these topics, especially if they're taboo, sometimes you could be healing somebody else. And other some people might not like it. They might talk about it, say, "Oh, you should be saying that." But listen, I don't post my spoken word for likes. I don't post my spoken word for people to talk about me, even though it might happen. If you like it, that's great. If you don't, that's fine. But that's a part of my purpose as an artist, to make you think differently, to make you more aware of certain things, because that's what I'm doing. And it's like, once you change something within yourself, you then realize you could be changing other things around you. Because it's like a chain reaction, it's like a domino effect. So it's necessary for me to do that, So I'm going to be doing that more often, and I know I need to.
That's what's up. Now, has that level of you changed in regards to, you know, the more you have become comfortable in your skin with performing? Has it elevated or is it the same? Because as you elevate, so does this aspect of yourself. Uh, what would you say about that?
Absolutely, I have elevated. The whole introversion part is, I try to figure out why I was so introverted. There's a few factors that go into it, but being afraid of what people think of me was the biggest one. Sometimes when you are a people pleaser, you don't want to rub people the wrong way, but then you don't end up being you. You end up being every version of what other people want you to be, which stagnates your growth as well. And that was a problem. So me speaking and me getting these words out, these poems out, these truths out helped me elevate and get out of my shell, because I know it was needed. I know that I can't be a famous writer, a famous speaker, or famous poet if I do not start actually speaking more, writing more, and sharing what is actually on my heart, because these messages are from a higher source. Yeah, they may be from me, but a lot of the time I'm getting these messages, they're being sent to me from a higher elevation, from my higher self, from God, from my ancestors, from my spirit guides. And if I don't do it, it's like I'm like creating static between myself and, my higher calling. So yeah, I can definitely see the change in myself. And I know that it's only gonna keep growing as I become more consistent doing it.
Have you been introduced to a different audience, since you've been writing and performing? Initially it's, hey girl, hey homie, I got a book. Understand? I got a book. Buy my ish. You know what I'm saying? Buy my, support your girl. So you get those people initially. So those people are coming in and say, oh girl, it's good. Girl, oh girl, you did after that you expand into other markets and other networks of people. So what has that journey been like as you open yourself up to the world, essentially? You go from your world, with Dorothy and Toto is there, to this other place with the Munchkins and the Tin Man and the Scarecrow and the Lion, and then y'all go to Oz and all of that stuff that's going on. Like, so what has that journey been like? Just actually getting your work out, getting your products to market in the marketplace where it's not the comfortable marketplace. That's a journey in itself.
It is. I would say that it's definitely new. It's exciting. It gives me an opportunity to be more comfortable marketing myself as a writer. And sometimes, and I'm gonna be really straightforward and honest with you, when you say like switching your audience, that's completely correct, because when you market as a writer and as an artist, you can't always stick with the people that you've known, because they're not going to always support you. And yeah, sometimes they may not mean to do that, but that's your way of saying, well, I can't market and make connections based off of who I already know, because how I'm not going to get very far. So you have to branch out, you have to market. Facebook has become a big platform for me. YouTube has become a big platform for me. um I do have some people that may reach out to me occasionally, and you have to know, you have to have the discernment to know who's actually going to be a big part in, making connections to help you grow in your business, or if they're just saying things just to become a part of your growth, like to benefit from it. And that part I have to be very careful with. I think anybody has to be careful with if they're new doing something. You have to have discernment. You have to be very wise, and you have to be clear about what you want and what you don't want. Because if you're not clear, you're just going to go along with what somebody said just because, oh, well, yeah, I could do this for you, or, oh, well, you want to get, no, you have to be very clear about your expectations, because this is your business, this is your market, this is your brand, you're building your brand. And I feel sometimes I'm more comfortable with building my own brand at the moment. Yes, I get help here and there, but I know me better than anybody else. And if I'm not comfortable marketing myself, which sometimes you're gonna have to learn like that, then I may bump into a big issue where I may allow somebody else to market me who doesn't have my best interest, you know. But I've become more versatile in being open about my exotic poetry, which I used to shy away from. Um, my poetry about addiction, dealing with toxic people in your life, and I've gotten responses from strangers. I've gotten people on like my poetry page on Facebook. A young lady, she messaged me and she was like, you just said everything that I would have never had the power to say on my own. And I could feel her energy, like it was a release. And things like that, they're worth more than a like. They're worth more than your friend supporting you, because this person doesn't know you, you don't know them. And it took them a lot of time and energy to type out what they had to say, because it could have been something that they were holding in their whole life. And then they put themselves on the line to tell you their story, and they share it with you because you shared it with them. So that's a different audience too, because I don't even know these people, and they reach out to me, and that pushes me to continue to do what I do for things just like that, because I'm helping someone else. I'm healing myself, but I'm healing other people at the same time.
All right, so for these last few minutes, let's share a message with the family about what you want them to take away from your writing, and so a message of empowerment. You know, we going through some things over here. You know, I'm loving it. You understand? I'm loving it, but some of
Thank
us
you.
ain't loving it. You understand? So uh, let's talk to them a little bit.
All right.
Show them some love.
So growing pains. My message that I want to share is that it's never easy, and it won't ever be easy to grow. You will come to some hard truths that will make you quite uncomfortable. You will have memories that will come up that you thought that you laid to rest. You might even feel guilty about certain things that you allowed to happen, or certain things that you've done. But you use these uncomfortable feelings, uncomfortable memories, uncomfortable experiences to help build you. Um, and it will be painful at times. But you're making such a big step in at least acknowledging that you have to change. You are acknowledging that there are things in your life that you no longer like, that you need to learn how to disconnect from. And at that point, that's when you come to the stage where you're like, okay, I'm gonna do this. Don't be too hard on yourself. Yes, be honest with you, be honest about what has happened, but take the lesson and use that to be greater. And it'll get easier. It may not be easy as you're doing it, but it will by you being honest and being consistent about it, you'll get through it. It's a process. Growing is a process. Don't beat yourself up about things that you cannot change. Let it go. It's easier to grow once you learn consistently how to let things go. Allow love and support in. Do not allow any negative people around you, because that it will stop your growth. Be authentic. Be yourself. Don't change who you are for anyone, for family, for friends, for coworkers. Be who you are authentically. Be your best self authentically. And just remember that, especially in my case, that you have a higher calling in most times. That sometimes when you go through certain things, in order for you to grow and to change, you have to break those unhealthy cycles that were passed down to you. And as a witness, it is beneficial, because when you heal you end up inadvertently healing other people that you're associated with, who are as well around you. So stay encouraged, love yourself, speak positivity into who you are, and don't be so hard on yourself, because you're still learning, you're still growing. So that's my message.
Wait, do I clap? Or wait, do I clap? Snap. Okay, all right. That's what I'm talking about. So, acknowledgement, shout outs, and how people can find you and where they can find your book, social media, and the like.
Sure. So acknowledgements. Definitely want to say thank you so much, Ori, Women's Circle. I always shout them out first, because they have played a big role and a big part in my growth. I've definitely gotten a lot of love and a lot of support from my sisters in that circle. I want to give shout outs to God, to my ancestors, to my spirit guides. I know I have a whole spiritual team behind me pushing me to be great. So I want to do that. I also want to acknowledge my book, Growing Pains. It is on Amazon for $9.99. I also have my poetry page on Facebook, Alyssa Michelle Poetry. I have a YouTube channel, Alyssa Michelle Poetry on YouTube. I have some videos there. And I do have Instagram, A Michelle Poetry, or Poetress A Michelle. Sorry. So yeah, I have Instagram. And I will also be doing other things that are in the works right now, and I will announce that when they're official.
Always a pleasure. Always welcome over here. This is your house. Okay, so anytime you want to pull up, you know what I'm saying, and show some love, we are always here.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time and enjoy the rest of your day.
All right.
All right.
Bye.
Peace.